I don't think I can rely on this hotel for shelter another night. At first, when I woke up this morning, I thought, well, at least you've got a good home base, shelter and blankets that you can come back to, but I don't think I can. When I look back on the events of the last several days, I'm faced with a real sense of fear. The man from the mill followed me. The man from the mill had followed me for days. Tracked me. Stalked me. And when it comes right down to it, I don't know where he is. And I don't think he's the only one. I've been chased by those other things a couple times now. It only makes sense that they're following me too, and if they are, I can't afford to leave any trace of myself behind. I can't afford to have a home base. I can't stay here. My choices are these: head back to Rockville or keep going forward. And since I've been on the road for days, I don't think I can safely backtrack. I can't go back to Rockville. I wish I could. I wish I could backtrack all the way into cell service and find a tow truck to take me home. But I can't. I don't even know if whatever is following me, if it's easier or harder to track me down now that I don't have the car, but no matter what the answer to that question is, I have to keep moving. I have to be stealthy. I have to be untrackable. And I know what's behind me. I know that Rockville and its many abandonments are still back there for miles and miles and miles. Eventually, this road has to go somewhere. Eventually, this highway connects to something else and civilization. It has to. Cody is out here in some way, shape, or form, and I need to find him. So, I need to find this school. And I need to commit to the idea that survival is my only shot now. I don't have a lot of food. I don't have any weapons. I couldn't even find the shotgun that the man who chased me in the mill must have left. And I don't know what's going on, but I think it's time to admit that whatever is going on out here, it must have something to do with Cody, and it must have something to do with the things that I keep running into, the notes that I keep finding. I need to understand this thing. I need to understand the rules that I'm supposed to be playing by. The notes from the person who had stayed in the hotel mentioned something happening here at the school. My purpose being here is twofold. I want to see if I can find out anything more about these things. And I need to find more supplies. Still, this is an elementary school. The most I can hope for is a supply closet with some tools. Maybe something I can defend myself with. And I'm hoping for food and water. Do schools even keep canned food on hand? What? Started with the children. Not in the sense that it was their fault, but They saw him first. Sometimes they would say that they caught a glimpse of someone in the doorway, or that they felt someone touch them when they walked down the hall. I tried to distract them, to tell them that their imaginations were wonderful, powerful things. I tried to ignore what I thought was some strange form of mass hysteria that had taken the school by storm. Until that day. That day they brought me a photo. It wasn't an odd photo at first. Just a group of children playing in the playground. But then there was something in the background. The man in the woods, they said. Doesn't speak, they said. Just stands there, solemn and dark, with a face that's unmistakable. A white mask of a face. No real eyes, just sunken, hollowed places where eyes should have been. We alerted the police immediately. For weeks, policemen patrolled the woods by the school. Parents and teachers alike were all told, if you see the man, notify us immediately. And even with all of this, they still saw him. At first, he was always far away. Children would talk about a light in the trees. As he moved closer, the light became a face, became a man. We would tell the police, and they would search the woods. Every single day they roamed. They even set dogs to patrol. Never found anything. And one day Jillian didn't come back from recess. It wasn't the first time she'd done that. She liked to follow her friend Claire back to Claire's classroom. So I told the children to start reading, and I walked over to find her. She wasn't there. I rushed out to the playground to find her, thinking she must have gotten forgotten, but she wasn't there either, and she didn't turn up anywhere else in the school. I ran back to the classroom, hoping, praying that I had just missed her somehow, that she'd wandered back while I was out looking. I'm never going to forget the feeling in the pit of my stomach as I approached my classroom door. Just an inch ajar. Children are never quiet when you leave them unsupervised. They talk and laugh and squeal and get into silly squabbles. But my classroom was silent. I don't know how long I stood at the door, maybe a minute. I had to force myself to open it the rest of the way. And they weren't right. They weren't right, but they weren't quite wrong either. They were all sitting at their desks. And it's the most striking thing. In addition to their absolute silence, they were all sitting perfectly still. Not a fidget, not an itch, not an errant finger tap. 22 little statues. That was when I approached them. Slowly. As I walked by them to the front of the room, they seemed to blink themselves back to normalcy. Even little Jillian, who was somehow sitting there as if she'd never been gone at all. The next day was worse. I had already been dreading coming into school after the strangeness of the previous day. And the school had that same eerie silence to it as I walked in the door. I went straight to my classroom, expecting to find the usual early students talking and playing when I went in. It was empty, and my eyes went up to the window that looks out over the playground. Every last one of them was there. Their backs to me, as they stared at something over the fence. And then he stood up. The man in the woods. The man in the woods was there with them, and they were transfixed to that horrible face. He didn't move toward me. His lips never spoke a word. And yet, as if the children were all on strings, they turned. They turned, and their eyes were hollow like his. Hollow eyes on vacant faces. Hollow children that suddenly ran toward me. I'm not ashamed to admit that I screamed, or that I locked myself in this closet. Been here for so long, and I can't fathom what's happened. Is the rest of the world hollow too? I've been in here for days. The children only whisper now. I hear them whisper, and I hear them knocking and clawing at the door. Their little hands are too weak to open it. If anyone finds this, you'll find me with my stomach full of sleeping pills, and I know that I was weak. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. But please believe me when I say you have to stay away from the man in the woods. In the hallway, coating the floor and the walls, there are these scribbles. Children coloring frantically across every available surface. They couldn't reach very high, and you can tell they weren't very old because the furthest they can reach doesn't even come to my shoulder. I opened the door to the closet. It was unlocked, unbarred. It smells like human excrement, and on pieces of craft paper, the teacher wrote her letter. There's an empty pill bottle on the ground, but no body. Hollow, she called them. I need to get what I came for and get out. I didn't find much, but some. Several granola bars, a few boxes of crackers, a few bottles of water. I also ransacked the principal's office and found something interesting. It's an address, written on the back of a photo. It's the photo that the teacher wrote about, I think. In it, there are a couple of children playing. They're all laughing and smiling, just being kids, you know? And then you look at the surroundings, and back at the fence line is the man. He's far enough away that at first you think he might be normal. The more you look, the more wrong his face seems. It's too white, too symmetrical. The eyes are too dark to make out, and yet you should be able to see them just fine. The longer I stare at this photo, the more uncomfortable I become. This is the man in the woods. And I cannot believe I have to go back outside. Shh. Oh, God. It's time to get out of here.